Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It has been a minute and I feel like I say that every time I get in front of the camera. However, it's just how my life has been lately, but I want to get back into sharing more regularly. So I decided that I'm going to do a tier ranking of all of the books that I've read so far in 2025 up through April. I've read 41 books. There are 34 on the tier list because I've included 8 in a series as just one book because they're so similar. Anyway, whatever. So there's 34 books that I'm going to be ranking on this list. They're not in any particular order, but let's get right into it. Okay, so the first book up is The Stranger, and I read this in one sitting. I loved it. It was really interesting. It's about a guy that gets caught up in a murder that was just kind of unexpected, and it's just kind of the fallout from that. And it's very short. It's translated from French, but I really like it. I thought it was interesting. I would recommend. Okay, the next book is Dubliners by James Joyce. This was kind of rough for me. This is a collection of short stories by James Joyce, and most of them, if I'm going to be honest, were forgettable. I guarantee you, if you would name some of these stories, like give me the title of them, I could not tell you what they were about. There were some that stood out, so it's not terrible. Also though, I felt like he, I don't know, just stopped his short story right at the climax, so there was no like resolution or anything, and it just kind of got irritating to be finally getting into this story and something happening and then the story just be done. And that's how a lot of them were in this collection, I felt like. So I don't know, it was just a lousy day. We'll see about that. Okay, the next one, I feel like I may ruffle some feathers. This was The Enchanted April, and I'm gonna put it here because, you know, I was expecting such lush descriptions of Italy and the food and the surroundings and everything, and all I got were 4 women that were quite annoying who stayed in one villa the entire time and didn't even venture out into the greater area. And I didn't really like, my dog is right here, sorry. I didn't really like any of the women that we followed. I thought they were all quite annoying, and I was so disappointed in this book, and I don't really see what the appeal is for it. I do, however, want to read more books set in Italy because An Italian Summer sounds amazing. So if you have any recommendations for those, send them my way because I would love to read them. Okay, the next one is The Air Affair. This is immediately yes. I loved this book. It was so quirky and chaotic in the best way. It's so literary, and it follows this main character who is part of special ops, and she's trying to uncover like who stole a manuscript, and it's just a fun, wild ride from start to finish, and I really enjoyed it. Okay, The Backyard Bird Chronicles. This is gonna go here. So I thought this was okay. I feel like I did not have the reading experience that this book justified. It's a journal of birds in this lady's backyard, and I listened to it on audio, and I am not that large a fan of birds where I just was so enthralled listening to her talk about the birds in her backyard. However, the pictures and the illustrations were so well done, and that was the best part of the book, I feel like, and I missed it. So this is just kind of mid for me, unfortunately. Okay, the next up is Sunrise on the Reaping, and I'm gonna put that here for now. We'll see. Well, actually, let's put it here. Okay, so I loved this. I had very low expectations going into it. However, I thought it was so well done. This was the sequel, not the sequel, like the after book, whatever, that I wish the President Snow story was. I did not like that one at all. So I really did not have high hopes for this one. However, I love Haymitch. I loved his arc in this book. I felt like the cameos from other characters were not cheesy. I liked seeing them there, and I just really enjoyed this book. Okay, here we go. No, just now. This The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue was a book club choice. I would have DNF'd it had I been reading it by myself. The content for me personally was just too much. I did not like it. Also, the storyline was just so shallow. There was a lot that could have been done with the premise. You know, you make a deal with the devil. But I just feel like it fell short. Okay, Dinner for Vampires. This one was so fun. That's weird. I shouldn't say that. Okay, this one was interesting. It's the memoir of Bethany Lentz, who was on One Tree Hill, and her entire time on One Tree Hill, she was actually in a cult. And so she tells about her backstory, how she got manipulated into being in this cult, how it affected her life on the show and outside of the show, and how she kind of got out of the cult while she was on the show. And it was just so interesting, and I really enjoyed my time reading that. Okay, Ship of Magic. Immediately yes. Like, what am I going to say about this book? This book was such a good start. I feel like Robin Hobb could write about the most detestable characters there are, and I would still love to read about them. Because let me tell you, there are some unlikable characters in Ship of Magic. However, I loved reading about them. And again, Robin Hobb could write about paint drying, and I think I would be enthralled. She writes so well. She builds her world so well. Like, the little tiny details are fascinating, and I loved it. I loved the live ships, how these sentient ships are part of these people's lives and how they get passed down through different families. Immediately yes, loved it. Another immediate yes is, oh no, let's put that here. Okay for Now by Gary Schmidt. I read this for middle grade March, and I loved it. I read The Wednesday Wars last year for the first time, and I knew I wanted to read another of his books, so I picked this one up, and it kind of ends right where The Wednesday Wars, or starts right where The Wednesday Wars ends, but it's following another character. And so this character moves away, and he has a rough family life, and he has a brother who comes home from the Vietnam War and his struggles with that. And I just thought it was so well done. It was such an enjoyable read. I feel like this will probably be one of my top 5 books for this year. And how, you know how the Wednesday Wars kind of did the whole Shakespeare thing? Okay for Now followed like John Audubon and his bird pictures. And so the boy was drawing his bird pictures. Okay, this is another middle grade book that I read for middle grade March, Rain, Rain, and I really loved it. It was so touching. It was about a young girl who is on the spectrum, and her home life is not so great, and she finds comfort in this dog that is a stray. And then a storm comes, and it's just, you know, pushes her boundaries and everything. But it was just really, it was a really good, beautiful story. All right, next up is So Late in the Day. I had high hopes for this one. However, it kind of fell short for me. This was a collection of 3 short stories by Claire Keegan, and I absolutely adored both Foster and Small Things Like These. Sorry, brain. I adored both of those, and so I knew I wanted to read another one of hers, so I picked this one up. And I don't know, I just didn't connect with the characters as much. I think maybe because the stories were shorter, I didn't have enough time to connect with them or something, but this just did not hit like the other two did, and so it was just okay for me. Okay, let's see. Aquanaut. Actually, I'm going to put it here because I enjoyed it more than the Backyard Bird Chronicles. Okay, Aquanaut. I'm going to put this here. It was good. It was interesting. I knew the story pretty well already. However, this is the story of the cave dive where they rescued the entire Thai soccer team, and so I knew the story pretty well already, and so it was interesting getting the diver's perspective, but it wasn't anything earth-shattering. There was no really new information. I did like his backstory and how he got into diving in the first place, and some of the other dives and rescue missions he did. But again, this was just, it was good. It was okay. And this one hurts my heart a little bit, but the next one is Death Comes for the Archbishop, and I'm just gonna put it right here because I love Willa Cather, and anything she writes is so beautiful. Her writing is gorgeous. But this just did not do it for me. I don't know. It was following the life of an archbishop in New Mexico, or like, you know, that area, and it just was I don't know. It felt really disjointed, and had I known it was more episodic in nature, I feel like I would have enjoyed it more knowing that going in. But it just felt really disjointed for me. And so, unfortunately, it was just kind of mediocre. Here we go. Worst book I've read so far, The Women. This is another book club book that I would not have picked up had it not been for book club. I did not like this. The main character, this is about women nurses in the Vietnam War, which sounds so intriguing. But it just fell short for me. The characters were flat. They were selfish. They were, I don't know, not realistic. I feel like the main character, Frankie, had a victim mentality. And yes, I understand that she suffered from PTSD. However, like, even before that, she just was a victim to me. She just annoys me. The Frankie as a character really, really annoyed me. And the choices she made really annoyed me. And the fact that, oh, I can't say that because it's a spoiler, but the end was terrible. Like, why did she do that? Why was that the result of this entire book? Like, there's no, anyway, it's just annoying. No, just no, I don't want to read another Kristen Hanna. She is not the author for me, and that's okay. I won't read another Kristen Hanna unless it's for book club, and I'm forced. Okay. Moving on. The next up is The River Enchanted, and this was the first in a duology. I enjoyed this. I thought it was a really interesting premise. This boy comes back from the mainland to his local, like, home island, and his island is like divided in two, and these two clans are warring between each other, and one has a certain type of magic and the other clan has a certain type of magic, and he comes back and he kind of bridges the gap between the two clans, so to speak. But he comes back because girls are going missing in his clan, and he plays the harp, and he's supposed to play the harp and be the musician, and it's supposed to talk to the fairies or whatever. I don't know. Anyway, I'm doing a really bad job of explaining it, I feel like, but I enjoyed it. And I'll put the sequel of Fire Endless over here because it was not as good in my opinion. I felt like there was a lot of content that wasn't in the first book that was in the second book that didn't need to be there, but I still enjoyed the story. Okay, The Complete Brambly Hedge. Immediately, yes. I sat down to look at the pictures of this one day, and I just read the entire collection. These stories are so sweet. The illustrations are beautiful. If you've never had the privilege of looking through a Brambly Hedge book or reading the stories, you should do so because they're precious and I love them. Okay, The Unselected Journals of Emma M. Lyon is next, and I'm gonna put it here. So this is like the first of 8 volumes. I read all 8 volumes so far this year. I enjoyed them all equally. I feel like they kind of blurred together. That's why I didn't put all of them in here, or it would just be like a row of 8 of the same series, because they blurred together so much for me because it's just her journals. However, Emma M. Lyon is a quirky, resilient character, and I loved reading her innermost thoughts and her journals. And I am a big sucker for really good friendships and found family, and that is definitely prevalent in this book, and it was so well done, and I'm a fan for sure. Okay, a tree grows in Brooklyn. Immediately, yes. This is a coming of age story in Brooklyn, set in Brooklyn, and oh my gosh, I don't know why I haven't read this yet, but I loved it. The main character, she lives a hard life, and a lot of it is kind of hard to read because it's so like heart-wrenching. However, the payoff at the end is definitely worth it for sure. Immediately, yes. All right, let's see. Let's go on to migrations. We're gonna put migrations here. Lousy day. Okay, lousy day. Like, I got made fun of so much for saying lousy day in high school, but like, if you're just sometimes there are no words besides lousy day. And that's kind of how I felt with this book. This could have been so good. It was like a global, like, things are happening in nature. Like, all of the birds are disappearing, all of the different animals. And so the entire ecosystems are changing. And so this lady is following what they think is going to be the last migration of Arctic terns. And so she's following it. And she's kind of an unreliable narrator, and you don't exactly know what's happening in her home life, but you do because it's so obvious. So that was annoying. But I felt like, okay, why are things disappearing? Why are the birds dying? Why are these ecosystems crashing? We didn't get any of that. And it was a very short book, but I just feel like it could have dove deeper into the why behind the earth looking like this, instead of just being like, yeah, there are no birds, the zoos are closing. Like, why? Give me some whys. Anyway, so that's where that is. Next up, Parnassus on Wheels. This is an immediate yes. I loved this book. This was the first 5-star book I read this year, and it was just so fun. If you love books, I feel like you would love this book, because it is literally about a man and a woman who are traveling around selling books from their little cart. And it was just so fun. I really liked it. Okay, next up is The Black Tulip. That's gonna go, I don't know, it's gonna go here. That was a lot of fun. It was fun. It was a fun ride. It was full of, stop. It was a fun ride. It was not necessarily what I expected, but I had a good time in reading it. It follows this guy who is super passionate about tulips because there is a tulip craze going on, and he wants to he wants to grow a black tulip, and people are out to get him and his tulip bulbs because they want the renown from growing the first black tulip. And it's just this whole thing around tulips. And so it was interesting, but it was fun. It was a fun ride. Okay, so next up is Snow Globe. I feel like I'll put it, I don't know, maybe here. Snow Globe was a cool premise. It is a dystopian, so the world is frozen, and so these little snow globe climate controlled cities pop up, and you either live outside of one or you live inside of one. And so the people that live inside are filmed 24/7, and they are basically famous, and that's kind of their contribution to the people who are outside of the snow globe, who do everything, so they have electricity and they have the heat and stuff. And so things go awry, and it's interesting, and it's a duology. And I'll definitely continue the duology because it was an interesting premise, but it wasn't groundbreaking or anything like that. Okay, Passing. Let's see. Passing, I think I'm going to put here. I would definitely recommend this to people. So Passing is about a woman who is an affluent Black woman. She's married, I believe, a doctor. She has this wonderful life, and she runs into a childhood friend who is passing as a white woman. And so it's their relationship. It looks at their relationship. It looks at why each woman chose the path that she chose and the repercussions of both. And I thought it was really interesting, and I definitely would recommend. Okay, the next one is the Dallargett Dream Department Store, and this one was so fun. I love books like this. They're just kind of cozy. This one is about a department store where you visit it in your sleep, and when you go, you can pick the dream that you want to have. And you don't remember going to the department store when you're awake. You just remember the dream that you purchase in this department store. And so, you know, it follows the same premise kind of as before the coffee gets cold. These dreams that they are purchasing help them in some way. And so it was fun. It was cozy, and I enjoyed it for sure. Okay, next up is The Bear and the Nightingale. And I really liked this. I thought it was a perfect book to read in the winter, which is when I read it. So this is like a Russian fairy tale, and it follows a young girl who her stepmother is forbidding them to worship the old spirits and stuff, and she kind of disagrees. She feels like there are bad things coming and they need to be careful, and it was just a lot of, I don't know, it was interesting, and I enjoyed it, and I think I'll continue the series. Next up is Assassin's Creed. I'm not gonna say, oh, sorry, Assassin's Quest. Is Assassin's Creed a video game? I feel like it is. Anyway, I'm not gonna say much about this because this is the final book in a trilogy, but I loved it. I thought the ending was spectacular. I enjoyed my time throughout, and these characters, man, they're so good. Robin Hobb really knows how to write these characters. Okay, another would recommend is Agnes Grey. This is a book that's very small, but I really loved it. It's about a governess who has a really hard time with some of the children that she is watching, so she goes to another place, and it's a book about a girl who is just steady. She's steadfast, you know, like she is who she says she is, and she's doing what she knows to be right. And the ending, swoon worthy. Loved it so much. Okay, Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. This is a book of poetry all about cats, and it was a lot of fun. Cats, the musical, is based on that, and so I think that's a lot of fun. I like dogs more than cats, so while I thought it was fun, I don't own a cat. So I just thought it was fun. Nothing groundbreaking. Okay, White Nights by Dostoevsky. I'm moving this, sorry. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put it here. I thought this was good. I've never read a Dostoevsky before, so this is a short story of his. I've heard that it is not as great as some of his others. However, I really enjoyed it still, but maybe that's because I've never read anything else by him to compare it to. But I don't know, it's kind of touches on unrequited love and stuff like that, and I just thought it was a sweet story. Next up is Leave Only Footprints. This is about a guy who went to all of the national parks and visited them. I really enjoyed this. I love national parks. I love reading about the national parks. I love walking books. This wasn't necessarily a walking book, but he did hike a lot. And it was really fun to read, especially about the parks that I've been to personally and what he liked and didn't like and how it differed from what I liked and didn't like about them. But I enjoyed it. I will say some of it was not necessary. He talked a lot about his love life, like he was trying to find dates in these different places that he went on. I don't know, I don't think it was Tinder. I don't know, some sort of dating app, and he would meet girls for coffee or whatever. And I'm like, this is not really relevant to the story, and I don't care. Like, I do not care who you're taking out on a date. So that was kind of a bummer. But the part about the national parks, I really enjoyed. All right, we're doing it. We're putting a Brandon Sanderson in the Lousy Day. Because Lousy Day, like, what in the world? Like, he could have done so much, and I just feel like it was such a disappointment. In my personal opinion, it was just, you know, it was just Lousy Day. I don't know. I'm not going to say a lot about it because I know people really like it or they really don't. I was disappointed, and that's okay. It is what it is. It's obviously the final book in his first arc of the Stormlight Archive, so I can't, you know, really give much of a plot, but I'm shocked that a Brandon Sanderson is that low on the list. Okay, last book, and this is actually the first book I read this year, is Mistress Pat, and this, I'm going to put here, it is the follow-up from Pat of Silver Bush by Ellen Montgomery, and I loved both of them so much. I feel like this was such a great conclusion to the Pat series, and it gives some closure where you need it, and it ended in a happy ending, and I don't know, I just really like it. I like books where the house or the home feels like a character in and of itself, and both Pat of Silver Bush and Mistress Pat do that because she lives at Silver Bush and that's their home, and it just feels like its own character. So I loved it. So let's see. Will I change any of these rankings? I feel like I did pretty good. I feel like this is fairly accurate of my reading so far this year. I've had more good books than I have bad, so that's always a plus. There have definitely been some disappointments in the Lousy Day category, and no. I find it interesting that both of those were my in-person book club picks. So I mean, I'm not sure what is happening this year, but we are not having the best luck choosing books, and that's okay. You win some, you lose some. But anyway, so those are all of the books that I've read in 2025. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.